Join me as I dive into the hilarious moment when Marvin Winans totally trolls Pastor Brian Carn at 38. Can I keep a straight face while breaking it down? Pastor Brian Carn and Marvin Winans are two heavy hitters in the gospel community. Both have been making waves with their powerful messages and music for years. You might be wondering what kind of dynamic could lead to a playful feud between these two respected figures. Something happened at New Life Covenant Fellowship that nobody saw coming. Prophet Brian Carn's closing sermon at the Holy Convocation left the congregation stunned, and whispers are spreading fast. What really went down behind the pulpit is more shocking than anyone expected, and today you're going to hear the full story that insiders aren't talking about. You won't believe what happened next. Prophet Brian Carn has been one of the most talked about voices in the gospel world, but his closing at the New Life Covenant Fellowship Holy Convocation was anything but ordinary. Rumors of shocking moments, unexpected reactions, and behind-the-scenes tension began circulating the moment the service ended. Today we're diving deep into what really happened, the moments the cameras didn't catch, the whispers in the hallways, and the reactions that left everyone questioning what they thought they knew about this event. From startling revelations during the sermon to the dramatic energy in the congregation, this is where it gets unbelievable. Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you'll understand why this closing is being called one of the most talked about and controversial moments in gospel history this year. As the congregation began to fill the grand hall of New Life Covenant Fellowship, there was an energy that you could almost feel pulsating in the air. People had traveled from across the country for this holy convocation, expecting the usual sermons of inspiration, hope, and faith. But something felt different this time. The air was thick with anticipation, and you could sense that this wasn't going to be a regular closing service. Insiders later revealed that even before Prophet Brian Carn stepped onto the pulpit, there were tensions backstage. Some staff members whispered about disagreements over the sermon's content. Others were uneasy about certain announcements that had been kept secret until the very last minute. For the first time, a subtle but undeniable undercurrent of controversy was present, and the congregation, blissfully unaware, felt only the calm before the storm. Then, when Brian Carn finally approached the pulpit, the room erupted in cheers. But behind that wave of excitement, the seeds of surprise were already being sown. The first few minutes of his sermon seemed familiar, comforting, even with echoes of the messages he'd delivered countless times before. And yet those who were watching closely noticed a shift, a sudden intensity in his voice, a pointed look that made people in the front rows exchange nervous glances. It was subtle, at first almost imperceptible, but as the sermon continued, it became clear that something extraordinary and perhaps even controversial was about to unfold. And just when the audience thought they were witnessing a standard closing message, Brian Carn dropped the first bombshell, a statement that left even longtime followers questioning everything. But what exactly did he say? And why did it immediately spark murmurs of shock throughout the hall? That's where the story takes a turn, and what happened next changed everything. As Prophet Brian Carn's voice filled the hall, there was a noticeable shift in the atmosphere. What began as a sermon of encouragement suddenly veered into territory no one had anticipated. Midway through his closing message, he paused, looked directly into the crowd, and made a statement that instantly silenced hundreds of voices. A revelation so bold, it left the congregation frozen for a moment, unsure if they had heard correctly. Eyewitnesses described the moment as electric, a mix of awe, confusion, and disbelief rippling through the room. Longtime members leaned toward one another, whispering questions, while newcomers sat wide-eyed, unsure whether to applaud or wait for clarification. Even the choir seemed momentarily paused, caught off guard by the unexpected turn. Sources close to the event later revealed that this statement wasn't just spontaneous. Behind the scenes, staff had warned Carn that such a declaration might provoke strong reactions, both positive and negative. Some feared backlash from certain influential members, while others sensed that this was a calculated risk, a bold move to challenge the congregation and push them into a deeper reflection. Their relationship seems to be built on a foundation of mutual respect, but like any public figures, they're not immune to a little friendly banter. It appears that Pastor Brian Carn had been making some comments or jokes that didn't quite sit well with Marvin Winans. The air was already charged with anticipation, and fans were eager to see how Marvin would respond. Marvin Winans decided to take a lighthearted jab at Pastor Brian Carn, and it seems like it was all in good fun. This wasn't the first time these two have engaged in witty exchanges, but this particular incident caught everyone's attention. The way Marvin Winans approached the situation was both clever and humorous. At 38, Pastor Brian Carn is still going strong, and it looks like he's got a good sense of humor about himself too. When Marvin Winans made his move, Pastor Brian Carn's reaction was priceless. Fans and followers were quick to jump into the conversation, sharing their thoughts on social media. One clip that really stood out was when Marvin Winans dropped a line that had everyone laughing. His quick wit and sharp tongue left Pastor Brian Carn and the rest of the gospel community in stitches. This wasn't mean-spirited, it was all about having a good time. The highlight of the exchange has to be Marvin Winans' clever comeback. It was a line that not only showcased his sense of humor but also his ability to think on his feet. The gospel community is no stranger to lively discussions, but this one was particularly entertaining. The aftermath of the trolling incident saw both pastors receiving a lot of attention, but it was clear that neither of them took offense. Instead, they seemed to enjoy the lighthearted exchange. Their ability to not take themselves too seriously is part of what makes them so beloved by their audiences. The incident served as a reminder that even in the gospel community, there's room for humor and playful banter. It brought fans closer together, sparking conversations and debates that were largely positive. If you've got thoughts on this hilarious exchange, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your take on it. If you're looking for more content like this, check out our video on similar incidents in the gospel community that had everyone talking. Thanks for the watching and subscribe.